Bit of an old-fashioned video here. I wanted to talk about something I talked about in the past, which was essentially I made a video about why people hate Spider-Man fans. I talked about on social media how people will argue about Spider-Man. All the fans will argue between each other. They'll murder each other over what suit is the best. If somebody happens to like the wrong MCU Spider-Man movie, they're probably going to find the SWAT team outside of their house kicking the door in, and then they're going to find like a note outside their grandma's house saying like, check the trash, and their grandma's going to be just gone. Spider-Man fans are insane. Not all, but the fandom is seen that way. I talked about why people don't like the fandom of Spider-Man. Today I want to talk about the same thing with Batman. If you do like this channel, leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below. It always helps me out. Maybe check out some of my variety stuff. I'm trying to grow this channel in general outside of just this character, but that actually plays into today's video about Batman. Because I think the main reason people hate Batman fans is because of the idea of tunnel vision. It's the idea that Batman fans don't care about any other superhero. Now, I don't think that's true. I do think it's true for some, but it's something we're going to talk about today. And I want to make sure I don't use this as a veiled criticism of my audience. It's just a look at what people think about fans of Batman, including me. I get this same stuff. So I already said if you enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe. We have a Fortnite code, DJAY123, helps us out a ton. Some stuff at the end of the video I'll talk about. And also, question of the day, what is your favorite live action Batman and why? Like, which version? I genuinely want to know, like, what about the character or movies do you like the most? Tunnel vision is an idea in comics, in gaming, in movies that actually has proven somewhat true in the past. But the reason why is more complicated than blaming the fans. Now, there is some blame to go around when it comes down to the fact that maybe there's a Batman comic that's really good, but there's also 5 other comics that are really good, and someone will not buy any of those. They will only buy Batman. I understand that criticism then. I understand the idea that basically, hey, look, you are not supporting any other characters. You're not supporting this Green Lantern comic that's amazing right now. Oh, it got canceled. You're not supporting the Static Shock comic that's great right now. Oh, it got canceled. Even with Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man comic book series will do great even if it's badly written. That's frustrating because it sends a message to the company that no matter what they do, people will buy it. No matter what they do, people will show up and buy it, and they will neglect other products. So why bother making them except to flesh out the universe for our bread and butter character? Essentially, it would be like from my videos. My videos are a frustrating point to me. I will work very, very, very hard and a lot of hours on something like a review of James Bond. I will put money into it and time into it. I will promote it, and not as many people will see it because Batman is so popular that the algorithm even just pushes Batman. Like, a lot of people don't even see when I upload other stuff. Now, this is the point I want to get to that I'm saying is not meant to be a criticism of my audience. To outside lookers in, that makes it look like the only character that people care about is Batman, out of like my audience, right? So, people are seeing that same kind of thing, that's just a microcosm version. People are seeing that same kind of thing in the comic book industry. They're seeing it when Batman sells and a bunch of other characters don't sell, so there's no reason to make them. They see that when a character like Batman gets a movie, or the Joker movie will do amazing, but all these other comic book movies won't. Now, they ignore some of the context. They ignore the fact of things like the DCEU was completely dying, so of course things like The Flash were not going to do as well as you'd think. Of course things like Aquaman were not going to do as well as really the first movie. You know, even though it still had widespread appeal and did fine, it's not going to do as well because of the state of that universe. But companies aren't really looking at that. They're not really looking at that context a lot of times, at least executives aren't, which is one reason why people hope that James Gunn is with his new universe. But regardless, that's something that they're seeing. When they make The Batman, and it does pretty good, or when they make Batman v Superman, and despite story problems, it does incredible for money, but then they will make a movie like Black Adam, and that doesn't do as well, right? Or they'll make a movie like Blue Beetle, and it doesn't do as well. The executives are seeing that, and they're seeing, oh, people have tunnel vision, they're not interested in these other characters. But what they're neglecting to realize is that they haven't built those other characters up. Here's an example of that from my channel. If I want people to watch my James Bond videos, I have to post James Bond videos. And frankly, I'm a little unfocused because I like a lot of different stuff and I like to share those passions with people. Executives don't see it that way. If something doesn't do well for them, they're not going to make it anymore at all, or they're going to shy away from it massively unless it benefits their other products through brand synergy, a thing that has come up and been used a lot in recent years in order to justify making comic books, in order to justify making video games. Essentially the idea of, we made the MCU Guardians of the Galaxy, oh now look, the comic book Guardians of the Galaxy is getting MCU-ified a little bit, so that fans of that version will come in and buy this version. It's all about cross-promotion, it's all about tying things together and trying to make you willing to buy it based off of something else. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I'm doing my best to explain this without a script because I just wanted to talk about it, but I think that's a main reason why a lot of other superhero fans, though, are kind of hateful and disdainful towards Batman fans, because they will see Batman fans and they will see Batman's success because he's like the GOAT. He's like an amazing character. He's great and he'll sell because he's awesome. You know, he's really cool. They'll see that and they'll be like, why doesn't my favorite sell? And it's actually not because their favorite's bad. It genuinely isn't. Like, a Green Lantern story could come out tomorrow and be better than anything from Batman in the last 10 years. I mean, it would be hard. Chip Zdarsky's run's fantastic, for example, but like, let's just say it happened. The problem is, something being really good doesn't necessarily mean it will be successful, and part of that is because of an over-reliance on one thing, which I think that WB has done, which I think that Marvel has done too, especially with Spider-Man, but they at least kind of got out of it with their movies, with starting with Iron Man and going different directions. The problem is, when you rely only on one thing, you don't diversify your cast of characters in terms of having more than one that matters, you are going to run into a roadblock eventually where that's the only one that people buy because it's the one that they know. And people have limited money too. It's not as easy as back in the day where you can walk into a comic store, I'm using comics as an example here, and buy 20 issues of different stuff that month and be like, all right, I'm good, because now comic books are $5 a piece or $6 a piece. They're getting really expensive. But the company doesn't look at that. What they look at is the success of the character. And so then other things get canceled, things that might have been good, and the fans of those things are frustrated because they say, well, why can't the thing I love also do good alongside your thing? Why does it have to be that everything has to be the billion-dollar property? Why can't something just be fun? And as someone who's seen brands and storylines and movies and comics and everything, video games even, canceled from characters that I would have liked to have seen, hey, I made a whole series, Rejected Media, where I talk about that on this channel. I get it. I get why people are frustrated about that, but I don't really think that's fans' fault. Yes, there are some fans who are very tunnel-visioned who don't want to appreciate anything else. I think that instead of yelling at those people, telling them they're a bunch of losers and an idiot, no, you just don't get it, and blah, 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 it's instead better to introduce them to other characters. You know, show them why they should care. If somebody thinks Green Lantern is a big nerd, why should they care about Green Lantern? Don't just say like, well, Green Lantern's cool, you're a little bitch. Why should they care about Green Lantern? What is good about it? What will convince them to check it out? Those are the things. Making arguments, making appeals, talking to people are the things that are going to get people interested in other things, not yelling at them. But Batman fans have been kind of backed into a corner where they get screeched at about not being willing to check other stuff out, and it makes them more not willing to check other stuff out. I know for me, when people yell at me, berate me, deride me, it makes me less willing to do what they want, even if they're right, because I don't like being treated that way. And that's unfortunately the spot that I think a lot of Batman fans find themselves in, is that they almost feel like screeched at for liking this popular character as if they're not allowed to, and that's a dumb way to see it. I think you can like both. Why can't you love Batman and support every Batman thing you want, and go and support The Flash, and go and support, not the movie, let's ignore the movie. You know what I mean. You don't have to have one or the other. The other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly here that I think is the other thing that people hate about Batman fans is the idea of power scaling, is the idea of, well, my favorite can beat your favorite, is the idea of prep time. Now, I've been guilty of this too. I think I made a video back in the day about Captain Marvel, and I talked about the Justice Buster suit, I think, and I talked about all this stuff, and I was like, well, how could, you know, Captain Marvel beat Batman if he has access to this stuff? I think these are fun conversations sometimes, but the problem is that I think a lot of Batman fans are not willing to budge. They're not willing to say like, hey, look, if Batman was caught off guard, he'd get his ass kicked here. Like, for example, when he fought the Reverse Flash. I know there's a lot of problems with Tom King's Batman run that people don't like, but during the Button storyline, that's a storyline I really enjoyed, where Batman was essentially backed into a corner in the Batcave. He was ambushed by the Reverse Flash, and he was almost killed. He put up a fight, but he was almost killed because there was no prep time. There was no ability to counter him. He put a batarang through his foot, which was awesome, but I don't think people get that yelling at them about how your favorite would beat their favorite, no matter who you are, is just going to turn them off to your favorite. And Batman fans, I think, have been really, really guilty of this, especially since back in the Dark Knight Returns era, when that was coming out in the comics and we had the classic Batman fighting Superman fight. Now, there have been other fights where Batman lost to Superman, but people ignore those. They kind of point back to that one cherry-picked example. And I think the cherry-picking, the arguing, the hey, this with prep time would do this, sometimes it's true. You know, sometimes with prep time, you actually would get a Batman that was able to do X, Y, or Z, and it's really cool when he does. But also, Batman's fallible. He's a man. He's a human. He can lose. And I think the inability to recognize that from some fans has led to a lot of backlash and frustration with Batman that people are just tired of, where they will get, you know, they will basically see Batman fans the same way that you would see like a casual. Like, oh, well, I really love the, you know, Justice League 3000 comic from back in the early New 52. You don't even know what that is. All you watched is The Dark Knight. You're just a casual. And I think that that is a bad attitude too. But I think it's permeated a lot from these arguments of like, hey, I watched The Dark Knight. I played Batman Arkham City one time and I read 2 comic books and I think I'm an expert. And they'll get into these arguments with people too. And even if they are an expert, it's just not fun because it always comes back to, well, your favorite's stupid, mine has prep time. I think the prep time argument, even though it is true sometimes, I will keep maintaining that, the fact that it always comes up and never is budged on, like that people will never just say like, hey, look, maybe this one wouldn't work out, or hey, look, if he was ambushed in the Batcave, he's probably dead. People won't back off on those things. They won't be willing to concede it because they have such a they see their self-identity in the character they love. Sometimes that's a good thing. It can drive us to be better people. It can drive us to improve. It can drive us to be more heroic. But other times it manifests as almost a toxicity of anger, of defensiveness, of, hey, if you touch my character, that means you're knocking me down a peg. That's not cool. And it's not really supposed to be about that. I think that personal attachment level of argument with the prep time stuff and all of that, along with the tunnel vision argument, which sometimes is true, but sometimes isn't, are the main reasons why I've noticed that people don't like Batman fans. They see Batman fans as people who think Batman is a god, that he's invincible, that he can never be beaten. They see Batman fans as people unwilling to actually educate themselves on other comic book heroes, unwilling to go and support other properties. But they don't understand that part of that is that Batman fans are getting yelled at and told like, hey, shut up about Batman, which makes people talk about it more. And they also don't understand the fact that the companies have built up this one character so much while not building up a lot of the others, to the point where of course it's your most iconic character. Of course it's selling the best. Of course people show up to everything for it. That's not really just the fans being a bag of jerks. That is essentially the ecosystem, the market that you have created as a business, is that character is the main or only one that matters to you, so it's the only one that will matter to this group of people. Now, personally, I like Batman fans. Batman fans are one of the reasons why my channel is afloat, and I appreciate it. But I will admit, sometimes too, I get a little frustrated. You know, when I work really hard on something, and then I see a Batman thing do really well that I didn't put as much effort into as something else maybe on a given day, and I'm like, hey, that's not as good as this thing, but you know what? It's great that people are interested either way. It's good that people are interested in this character. It gets them to be better people, hopefully. It gets them to adopt heroic aspects into their own life. It gets them to roam the streets at night beating up criminals. Okay, maybe don't do that, and if you do that, it's kind of badass, but don't say that I told you to do it, all right? That's probably not a great look for me. People need heroes. People need characters that they connect with, that in a kind of broken world make them feel like things will be okay, things can get better, and they themselves can improve. I do think that's a great thing. I also think that it's, you know, the responsibility of other fans who want to introduce people to stuff to be nice about it, to not be a jerk, to not deride people just because they like something. Like, just be nice. You know, it's not worth it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm very interested in that. I'm interested in the question of the day as well, about your favorite version of Batman. You know what? Even if it's not live action, I'm interested. Maybe it's a cartoon, whatever. Let me know. I am interested. If you want to support this channel, DJAY123 on Fortnite, leaving a like, subscribing right here. All those things help us out a lot. We have CosmoBunny.shop, our store where we sell repurposed, recycled comic book resin pieces. These are essentially things where we get damaged comic books, damaged manga from local stores. They can't sell them. Sometimes they're unfortunately thrown out. So what we do is we take them, we make something out of them, out of that comic book paper that goes in your home. There's a discount code DJAY123 as well, which helps us out a ton at checkout, 10% off your first purchase. And what we do with that is we then recycle the stuff that we didn't already reuse, so that paper for sure goes in the recycling. We're just kind of taking a little bit out of it, making something cool for your home, and then recycling it. These things last a very long time. We use non-yellowing resin, so this is stuff that will last for years and years. I appreciate you very much. Also handmade jewelry over on that website, so a lot of really great stuff that my wife Jill works on. Very beautiful, wonderful artist. I love her very much, and I'm hoping that as this channel grows, so too will her channel, so too will her business, because it's a team effort, and without her, I genuinely would have quit YouTube a long time ago. So I really appreciate her very much. If you enjoyed today's video, all the ways to support it, appreciate you so much. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.